First contact. The artificial sun of Nova Prime cast its warm glow over the bustling capital city of New Horizon. Towering skyscrapers of glass and graphene stretched toward the geodesic dome that protected the city from the harsh atmosphere of humanity's first extrasolar colony. In the heart of the city, inside the Colonial Administration Building, Governor Ilara Chen stared out of her office window, her dark eyes scanning the skyline she had helped build over the last 2 decades. A chime from her desk interrupted her contemplation. "Governor," her eye assistant's voice emanated from hidden speakers. "Fleet Admiral Koji Tanaka is requesting an urgent meeting." Ilara frowned. The Admiral rarely left his orbital command station. Sent him up immediately. Minutes later, the office door slid open, revealing the stocky figure of Admiral Tanaka. His usually immaculate uniform was wrinkled, and dark circles under his eyes betrayed his lack of sleep. "Admiral," Ilara greeted, "you look like you've seen a ghost." Tanaka's lips tightened into a grim line. "Something far more tangible than a ghost, Governor. We've detected an unknown fleet approaching the system." Ilara felt her heart skip a beat. Pirates, or perhaps a lost colony ship? The Admiral shook his head. "Neither. The ships, they're not of human design. We're looking at first contact, Governor." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Humanity had spread to the stars, terraformed worlds, and built wonders, but in all their explorations, they had never encountered another sentient species. How long until they reached Nova Prime? Ilara asked, her mind racing through protocols and contingencies. "At their current speed, just under 48 hours, Tanaka replied. "I've already put the fleet on high alert," but he trailed off, his expression grim. Ilara understood the unspoken concern. Nova Prime's defenses, while formidable against human threats, were an unknown quantity against an alien force of unknown capability. "We need to prepare for all possibilities," Ilara said, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her mind. "Admiral, I want hourly updates on the fleet's approach. I'll inform the Colonial Council and begin preparations for potential first contact scenarios." Tanaka nodded, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. "Understood, Governor. There's one more thing." He hesitated, then continued. "We've detected low-level communications from the alien fleet. Our eyes are working on decryption, but initial analysis suggests they might be attempts at contact." A spark of hope ignited in Ilara's chest. "Then let's hope they come in peace." "Dismiss, Admiral. We have work to do." As Tanaka left, Ilara turned back to the window, her reflection overlaying the city beyond. The next 48 hours would change the course of human history, for better or worse. Dr. Zora Patel stood before the hastily assembled team of xenolinguists and communication specialists in the Colonial University's largest lecture hall. Holographic displays flickered around her, showing complex waveforms and partial decryptions of the alien transmissions. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice carrying a hint of her Indian heritage, "we are on the brink of the most significant linguistic challenge in human history. These transmissions," she gestured to the displays, "represent our first chance to communicate with an extraterrestrial intelligence." The room buzzed with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Zara continued, "Our A's have made some headway in decrypting the basic structure of their language, but we're missing crucial context. That's where we come in." She brought up a new display, showing a series of complex symbols. "We believe these represent some form of greeting or statement of intent. Our job is to formulate a response that conveys our peaceful intentions without accidentally causing offense." As the team began to work, Zora couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. This was the moment she had dreamed of since she was a child, staring up at the stars from her family's balcony in Mumbai. Now, on a world light years from Earth, she was about to help shape humanity's first words to another intelligent species. High above Nova Prime, aboard the orbital defense station Aegis, Fleet Admiral Tanaka watched as the alien fleet drew ever closer. The ships were unlike anything he had ever seen. Organic curves blended seamlessly with crystalline structures, defying human engineering principles. "Status report," he barked, his eyes never leaving the main view screen. His XO, Commander Sarah Oko, responded crisply, "All defense platforms are at full readiness, sir. The planetary shield is charged and standing by. Ground-based ion cannons are tracking the incoming fleet." Tanaka nodded, a muscle in his jaw twitching. "And our ships. The entire home fleet is in position, Admiral. The HSS Titan and her battle group are on an intercept course, ready to serve as our vanguard." "Good," Tanaka murmured. He hoped these preparations would prove unnecessary, that the aliens came with open hands rather than clenched fists. But decades in the colonial navy had taught him to hope for the best and prepare for the worst. A lieutenant's voice cut through his thoughts. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet." Sir, I think it's a response to our greeting." Tanaka's heart raced. This was it, the moment that would define humanity's first encounter with an alien civilization. "Put it through," he ordered, his voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. The main view screen flickered, and an image appeared that seared itself into the minds of every human who witnessed it. The alien was vaguely humanoid, with iridescent scales covering its body, and 4 arms arranged around a torso that seemed to ripple with barely contained energy. Its eyes, 3 of them, were black orbs that reflected the stars themselves. When it spoke, the words came through the ship's speakers in a melodious tone that seemed to resonate on a cellular level. "People of the warm worlds, we are the Zarkun. We come seeking new realms to bring into the embrace of our harmony. Your world shines brightly in the cosmic dance. Will you join us in our sacred rhythm?" As the transmission ended, a stunned silence fell over the Aegis Command Center. Tanaka felt the weight of history pressing down upon him. The next words, the next actions, would set the course for humanity's future among the stars. "Commander Oko," he said, breaking the silence, "get me a secure line to Governor Chen, and contact Dr. Patel's team. We need to understand exactly what we've just heard." As his crew sprang into action, Tanaka allowed himself a moment of reflection. Humanity had long wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. But with that answer came a new question, one that sent a chill down his spine. Had they just received a greeting from newfound friends, or an ultimatum from would-be conquerors? The next few hours would tell, and Tanaka knew that either way, nothing would ever be the same again. The invasion begins. Governor Ilara Chen stood in the heart of New Horizons' diplomatic center, her eyes fixed on the holographic display of the Zarkun delegation. Despite the alien's unsettling appearance, she maintained a calm demeanor, years of political experience serving her well in this unprecedented situation. "We appreciate your offer to join your harmony," Ilara said, choosing her words carefully. "However, we need more information before we can make such a monumental decision. Our people value their independence and self-determination." The lead Zarkun negotiator, who had introduced itself as Harmony Speaker Vexlor, rippled its scales in what Dr. Patel had tentatively identified as a sign of frustration. "Governor Chen," Vexlor's translated voice reverberated through the chamber, "you misunderstand. The embrace of the harmony is not an offer, but a gift. A necessity. Your kind stumbles through the cosmos, dissonant and alone. We bring purpose, unity, perfection." Ilara felt a chill run down her spine. She glanced at Dr. Patel, who gave a subtle shake of her head. The xenolinguist's expression was grim, confirming Ilara's growing suspicion that joining the harmony was a euphemism for something far more sinister. "Speaker Vexlor," Ilara replied, her tone firm but diplomatic, "while we respect your beliefs, we must decline. Humanity has its own path, its own destiny. We're open to peaceful cooperation, cultural exchange, even trade. But we will not surrender our autonomy." The 3 eyes of Vexlor seemed to darken, the starry reflections within them becoming turbulent. You cling to your imperfection out of fear, not wisdom. If you will not embrace the harmony willingly, then we must act as the universe demands. For the good of all, the dissonance must be silenced. With that, the holographic image of the Zarkon delegation vanished. Ilara turned to her advisors, her face set in grim determination. It seems diplomacy has failed. Admiral Tanaka, prepare our defenses. Dr. Patel, I need you to analyze every piece of communication we've had with the Zarkon. Find a weakness, find a way to reason with them. As her team rushed to their tasks, Ilara allowed herself a moment of doubt. Had she just doomed her people to war? Aboard the Aegis, alarms blared as sensor readings went haywire. Admiral Tanaka barked orders, his crew responding with practiced efficiency despite the unprecedented nature of the threat they faced. Status report, Tanaka demanded, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. Commander Oko's voice was tense but controlled. Sir, the Zarkon fleet is advancing on our position. Energy readings are off the charts. They're charging weapons. Tanaka's mind raced through strategies and contingencies. Bring the planetary shield to full power. Launch our fighter squadrons, and have the Titan battle group move to intercept. As his orders were relayed, the view screen lit up with the first salvo from the Zarkon fleet. Beams of coruscating energy lanced out, striking the outermost defense platforms. The hardy human constructions, designed to withstand meteor impacts and naval bombardments, were vaporized in seconds. By all that's holy, Tanaka murmured, shock giving way to determination. All ships, return fire. Tactical, analyze their attack patterns. Find a weakness. The space around Nova Prime erupted into chaos as human and Zarkon ships clashed. Human railguns spat hypersonic projectiles, while Zarkon vessels retaliated with weapons that seemed to defy physics, bending space itself to deliver devastating blows. Despite being outgunned, the human defenders fought with a tenacity that seemed to surprise the Zarkon. The HSS Titan, pride of the Nova Prime fleet, led a daring charge that scattered a Zarkon formation, its oversized main gun punching clean through one of the alien vessels. But for every small victory, the humans paid a heavy price. Defense platforms fell one by one, and ships disappeared from tactical displays in alarming numbers. Sir, Commander Oko reported, her voice strained, we can't hold them in orbit. They're breaking through. Tanaka clenched his fists, watching as Zarkon ships slipped past the orbital defenses, making for the planet below. Inform Governor Chen. Ground forces need to prepare for imminent invasion. In New Horizon, chaos reigned as the reality of alien invasion set in. The streets filled with panicked civilians making for the emergency shelters, while Colonial Defense Force troops moved in the opposite direction, racing to their designated defense positions. At the Colonial Defense Headquarters, Colonel Maya Santos, head of Nova Prime's ground forces, coordinated the planet's last line of defense. Holographic displays showed the positions of her troops and the descending Zarkon ships. I want anti-air batteries firing the moment those ships enter the atmosphere, she ordered. Infantry units, prepare for close-quarters combat. We hold the line here. As her troops acknowledged her commands, Maya allowed herself a grim smile. The Zarkon might have the advantage in space, but down here, on humanity's hard-won world, they'd face an enemy fighting for their very existence. Outside, the sky lit up as the first Zarkon landing craft breached the atmosphere. Anti-air fire reached up to meet them, filling the air with explosions and debris. Some of the alien ships fell, but many more continued their descent. In the Colonial Administration building, Governor Chen watched the unfolding invasion with a mixture of horror and resolve. She turned to her chief of staff, her voice steady despite the circumstances. Initiate Operation Firewall, she commanded. Transmit all our data on the Zarkon back to Earth, and send the message we prepared. As her order was carried out, Ilara thought of Earth, of humanity's homeworld, blissfully unaware of the threat that now assailed its first interstellar colony. The message would warn them, give them time to prepare. Whether Nova Prime stood or fell, humanity would endure. A thunderous impact shook the building as a Zarakan ship crash-landed nearby. The battle for Nova Prime had begun in earnest. In the streets, Colonial Defense Force troops took up positions, their weapons trained on the downed alien ship. For a moment, an eerie silence fell over the battlefield. Then, with a screech of tearing metal, the ship's hull split open. Zarkam warriors poured out, their 4 arms wielding strange, organic-looking weapons. As they advanced, they chanted in their melodious language, a hymn to their precious harmony. The human defenders opened fire, a cacophony of gunshots and explosions that stood in stark contrast to the aliens' eerie song. The battle was joined, a desperate struggle that would determine the fate of not just Nova Prime, but potentially all of humanity. As the sounds of combat echoed through New Horizon, Dr. Zora Patel worked feverishly in her lab, poring over every scrap of data on the Zarakan language and culture. Somewhere in this alien syntax and ideology, she believed, lay the key to understanding their motivations, and perhaps finding a way to end this conflict before it was too late. The Zarakan had come to silence what they saw as dissonance, to forcibly include humanity in their cosmic harmony. But humanity had no intention of going quietly. On the streets of New Horizon, in the skies above Nova Prime, and in labs and command centers throughout the colony, the people of Earth's first interstellar outpost steeled themselves for the fight of their lives. They would hold the line, not just for Nova Prime, but for the future of humanity among the stars. Against all odds, the acrid smell of plasma discharge and burning polymers filled the air as Colonel Maya Santos ducked behind a shattered storefront. Laser fire and alien energy weapons crisscrossed the street, turning New Horizon's once bustling commercial district into a war-torn hellscape. Charlie Company, report. Maya barked into her comm unit. We're holding the line at 7th and Main, Colonel, came the strained reply. But we can't keep this up much longer. These bastards just keep coming. Maya gritted her teeth. The same story was playing out across the city. The Colonial Defense Force fought with everything they had, but the Zarakan's numbers and advanced technology were slowly but surely overwhelming them. A series of explosions rocked the ground, and Maya risked a glance over her cover. A squad of CDF troops was retreating from an advancing phalanx of Zarakan warriors. The aliens moved with an uncanny synchronization, their 4 arms weaving complex patterns as they chanted their haunting battle hymns. All units, fall back to secondary defensive positions, Maya ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Initiate Protocol Scorched Earth. We're not letting them take this city intact. As acknowledgments flooded her comm, Maya took a deep breath. They were running out of ground to give, but every meter the Zarakan had to fight for bought more time for the civilians to evacuate and for Earth to prepare its defenses. In the depths of Nova Prime's most secure research facility, Dr. Elena Volkov worked frantically, her fingers flying over holographic interfaces as she fine-tuned the colony's last, best hope. Status report. Governor Chen's voice came through the lab's speakers, tense but controlled. Elena pushed a lock of gray hair from her forehead, leaving a smudge of grease. We're close, Governor. The quantum entanglement drive is stable, but we're having trouble with the targeting system. We can't risk firing it until we're sure it won't tear a hole in the fabric of space-time. There was a pause, filled only by the distant rumble of explosions. How long, Doctor? Elena closed her eyes, calculating. 2 hours. Maybe 3. You have 1, Chen replied, her voice grim. After that, there might not be much of a colony left to save. As the communication cut off, Elena turned to her team, determination etched on her face. You heard the governor. Let's make the impossible possible. Admiral Tanaka stood on the bridge of the Aegis, now little more than a floating wreck. Most of the view screens were dark, and the few that still functioned showed only devastation. The pride of humanity's interstellar fleet had been reduced to scattered pockets of resistance. "Sir," Commander Oko reported, her uniform stained with blood from a gash on her forehead. "The Titan is reporting critical system failures. Captain Rodriguez is ordering all hands to abandon ship." Tanaka closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of each lost ship, each lost life. When he opened them again, they burned with renewed determination. "Send the order to all remaining ships," he said, his voice carrying across the ruined bridge. "Initiate Operation Firebreak. We're taking the fight to them." Oko's eyes widened. "Sir, that's a suicide mission." Tanaka nodded grimly. "Maybe so, Commander. But if we can take out their command ship, we might just buy enough time for the ground pounders to turn this around." As the orders were relayed, the remnants of humanity's orbital defenses began to move. Damaged ships, some little more than floating hulks, adjusted their courses. They were no longer defending. They were attacking. On the ground, the battle for New Horizon had devolved into a series of brutal close-quarters engagements. The Zarkun's advanced technology gave them a significant advantage, but humanity's defenders fought with a ferocity born of desperation. In a makeshift command center in the city's underground transit system, Colonel Santos coordinated what remained of the city's defenses. Holographic displays showed the steady contraction of human-controlled territory. "Ma'am," a young lieutenant reported, "we've lost contact with the eastern sector. The Zarkun have overrun our positions there." Maya nodded grimly. "Redirect Alpha and Bravo companies to reinforce the central corridor. We can't let them reach the civilian shelters." As her orders were carried out, a new alert flashed on the main display. Maya's eyes widened as she read the message. "Is this confirmed?" she demanded. The lieutenant nodded. "Yes, ma'am. Admiral Tanaka is leading what's left of the fleet on an all-out assault against the Zarkun command ship." For a moment, Maya allowed herself to feel a glimmer of hope. If Tanaka could pull this off, it might just give them the breathing room they needed. In orbit, the battle had reached its climax. The remaining human ships, many of them little more than flying wrecks, hurtled toward the massive Zarkun command vessel. Point defense systems on both sides lit up space with a dazzling, deadly light show. On the bridge of the Aegis, Admiral Tanaka gripped his command chair as the ship shuddered under enemy fire. "Status of the package," he barked. "Armed and ready, sir," Oko replied, her fingers dancing over her console. "But we'll need to get much closer for a guaranteed kill." Tanaka nodded. "Helm, set a collision course. All power to forward shields and engines." As the Aegis accelerated toward its final mission, other human ships fell by the wayside, either destroyed by Zarkun fire or expending the last of their power to clear a path for the flagship. The massive form of the Zarkun command ship grew larger on the view screen. Its organic-looking hull bristled with weapon emplacements, all of them now focusing on the incoming threat. "Distance to target?" Tanaka asked, his voice calm despite the maelstrom around them. 5,000 kilometers in closing, the helm officer reported. 4,000, 3,000. Explosions rocked the Aegis as it pushed through the final defensive screen. Warning klaxons blared as systems failed across the ship. "Now, Commander," Tanaka ordered. Oko slammed her hand down on the release control. From the belly of the Aegis, a small, nondescript projectile launched toward the Zarkun ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a flash that outshone Nova Prime's sun, a miniature singularity blossomed in the space between the two ships. The fabric of space-time itself seemed to warp and twist. The Zarkun command ship, caught in the gravitational maelstrom, began to break apart. Huge sections of its hull were torn away, disappearing into the voracious maw of the artificial black hole. On the bridge of the Aegis, Admiral Tanaka allowed himself a small smile. "Give my regards to the Harmony," he murmured as the singularity's pull caught his ship as well. In a final, cataclysmic implosion, both the Aegis and the Zarkun command ship vanished, leaving behind only a rapidly dissipating gravitational distortion and a stunned silence across the battlefield. In her lab deep beneath New Horizon, Dr. Elena Volkov's head snapped up as her instruments registered a massive gravitational anomaly in orbit. "What in the world?" she muttered, her fingers flying over her console. As the readings came in, her eyes widened in realization. They did it. They actually did it. She turned to her team, a new fire in her eyes. "The Admiral just bought us the time we need. Let's make it count. We're going to get this quantum entanglement drive online if it's the last thing we do." As her team redoubled their efforts, Elena allowed herself a moment of hope. The Zarkon might have superior numbers and technology, but humanity had something they didn't: the sheer, stubborn refusal to go quietly into the night. The battle for Nova Prime was far from over, but for the first time since the invasion began, the scales had tipped ever so slightly in humanity's favor. In orbit and on the ground, against overwhelming odds, they held the line. And now, deep underground, humanity's scientists raced to unlock a power that could change the course of the war, and perhaps the very nature of reality itself. Turning the tide. The destruction of the Zarkon command ship had thrown the alien invasion into disarray. In the streets of New Horizon, the once synchronized movements of the Zarkon warriors became erratic and uncoordinated. It was as if a guiding intelligence had suddenly been silenced. Colonel Maya Santos didn't waste a moment. "All units, this is our chance. Push them back." Across the battered cityscape, human defenders emerged from their fortified positions, launching a fierce counterattack. The tables had turned. Now it was the Zarkon who found themselves overwhelmed and outmaneuvered. Maya led a squad through the commercial district, her rifle spitting fire as they cleared building after building. The Zarkon fought back, but their movements were sluggish, their formerly precise tactics replaced by desperate individual actions. "Ma'am," her comms officer reported, "we're getting similar reports from all sectors. The aliens are in full retreat." Maya allowed herself a grim smile. They had bled for every inch of this city, and now they were taking it back. In orbit, the remnants of Nova Prime's defense fleet regrouped under the command of Captain Liam Chen, son of the planet's governor, and now the highest-ranking officer left in the system. "Status report," Liam demanded, his young face etched with lines of fatigue and determination. His XO, Lieutenant Commander Amelia Durand, responded crisply. "The Zarkon fleet is in disarray, sir. We're detecting multiple ships attempting to flee the system. However, a significant force remains in high orbit, apparently attempting to re-establish command and control." Liam nodded, his mind racing through tactical options. They had a chance here, but their forces were stretched thin. One wrong move could undo everything they had gained. "Prepare all functional ships for combat," he ordered. "We're going to press our advantage while we still have one." As the human ships formed up, ready to engage the regrouping Zarkon forces, a priority message flashed across Liam's console. His eyes widened as he read it. "Belay that last order," he said, his voice tight with excitement. "All ships, assume defensive positions around the planet. Ground control says they have a surprise for our unwelcome guests." Deep beneath the surface of Nova Prime, Dr. Elena Volkov stood before the quantum entanglement drive, a marvel of human ingenuity born from desperation and brilliance. The machine hummed with barely contained energy, arcs of quantum foam dancing across its surface. "Governor," Elena spoke into her comm unit, "the QED is online and ready for deployment. But I must warn you, the effects are still largely theoretical. We can't be certain." "We're out of options, Doctor." Governor Chen's voice came back, strained but resolute. "Whatever happens, it can't be worse than letting the Zarkon take our world. Proceed with the operation." Elena took a deep breath, then turned to her team. "Initiate startup sequence. Let's hope this works." As the quantum entanglement drive spun up to full power, reality itself seemed to warp around the facility. In orbit, both human and Zarkon ships detected a massive surge of energy emanating from the planet's surface. Suddenly, space itself appeared to fold. A shimmering, translucent barrier began to expand outward from Nova Prime, growing rapidly to encompass the entire planet and its orbital space. Inside the quantum bubble, the laws of physics subtly shifted. The Zarkon ships, their technology suddenly behaving in unpredictable ways, began to falter. Some lost power entirely, while others spun out of control, their navigational systems rendered useless. The human ships, their systems hastily modified based on Dr. Volkov's theories, maintained control. Captain Chen's voice rang out across the comms. All ships, engage the enemy. Today we take back our skies. What followed was a battle unlike any in human history. Inside the quantum bubble, conventional tactics were useless. Ships phased in and out of normal space, weapons fire bent in impossible arcs, and the very fabric of reality seemed to ripple with each exchange. But the humans, adaptable and determined, quickly adjusted to this new paradigm of warfare. They pressed their advantage, methodically dismantling the remaining Zarkon fleet. As the space battle raged, a different kind of conflict was unfolding on the surface. Dr. Zara Patel, working tirelessly to decipher the Zarkon language and culture, made a breakthrough that would change the course of the war. Governor Chen, Zora's excited voice came through the command center speakers. I've managed to decrypt more of the Zarkon transmissions. There's something you need to hear. A moment later, the translated voice of a Zarkon filled the room. The dissonant ones resist the harmony with unexpected strength. Our efforts to silence them have failed. More troubling, exposure to their chaotic frequencies has caused disturbances in the core. Some among us begin to question the purity of the harmony. If we cannot swiftly bring these humans into the fold, I fear the corruption may spread. We must. The transmission cut off abruptly, but its implications were clear. Governor Chen turned to her advisors, her eyes alight with newfound hope. Do you understand what this means? The Zarkon aren't as united as they appear. Our resistance isn't just protecting our world. It's shaking the very foundations of their society. Colonel Santos, who had joined the command center staff after securing the city, spoke up. Ma'am, if we can exploit this internal conflict, we might be able to end this war without further bloodshed. Chen nodded, her mind already racing with possibilities. Dr. Patel, I need you to craft a message. Let's give the Zarkon something to really think about. In orbit, the battle had reached its climax. The quantum bubble had expanded to encompass the entire Nova Prime system, creating a pocket of altered reality that neutralized much of the Zarkon's technological advantage. Captain Liam Chen stood on the bridge of his flagship, the HSS Defiant, watching as the last of the Zarkon capital ships succumbed to the combined firepower of the human fleet. Sir, his tactical officer reported, we're detecting a surge of quantum activity from the largest remaining Zarkon vessel. It looks like they're trying to break through the bubble. Liam's eyes narrowed. They're making a run for it. All ships, concentrate fire on that vessel. We can't let them escape to warn the rest of their kind. The human fleet converged on the fleeing Zarkon ship, their weapons leaving trails of distorted space-time in their wake. But before they could land the killing blow, the alien vessel pulsed with energy. For a moment, it seemed to exist in multiple places at once, its form blurring and stretching. Then, with a flash of light that momentarily blinded every sensor in the system, it vanished. Silence fell over the bridge of the Defiant. They had won the battle for Nova Prime, but at what cost? And what would happen when the rest of the Zarkon learned of their defeat? As if in answer to his unspoken question, Liam's comm unit crackled to life. Captain Chen. His mother's voice came through, filled with a mix of pride and urgency. I need you planetside immediately. We have a plan to end this war, but we're going to need every asset we have to pull it off. Liam acknowledged the order, then turned to his crew. Despite the uncertainty that lay ahead, he felt a surge of pride. Against all odds, they had held the line. Now it was time to take the fight to the enemy. As the Defiant began its descent towards Nova Prime, Liam couldn't help but feel that they were on the cusp of something momentous. The fate of not just their colony, but of all humanity, and perhaps even the Zarkon themselves, hung in the balance. Whatever came next, Liam knew one thing for certain: humanity would face it head-on, with all the courage, ingenuity, and determination that had brought them to the stars in the first place. Humanity Ascendant. The halls of the Colonial Administration Building buzzed with activity as Governor Ilara Chen convened an emergency meeting of Nova Prime's leadership. Around the table sat the key figures who had guided humanity through its darkest hour. Colonel Maya Santos, her uniform still bearing the grime of battle. Dr. Elena Volkov, dark circles under her eyes from sleepless nights perfecting the quantum entanglement drive. Dr. Zara Patel, her fingers dancing over a datapad as she continued to decipher Zarkon transmissions. And Captain Liam Chen, freshly arrived from orbit, his presence a living reminder of Admiral Tanaka's sacrifice. "Ladies and gentlemen," Ilara began, her voice steady despite the weight of responsibility on her shoulders, "we stand at a crossroads. Thanks to your efforts, and the sacrifices of countless others, we've pushed the Zarkon back. But this war is far from over." She nodded to Dr. Patel, who stood and activated a holographic display in the center of the table. "The transmission we intercepted suggests a fracturing within Zarkon society," Zara explained. "Our resistance has caused some of them to question their harmony. We believe this presents an unprecedented opportunity." Dr. Volkov leaned forward, her eyes alight with scientific curiosity. "The quantum entanglement drive has given us an edge. But it's not a permanent solution. Eventually, they'll adapt or find a way to counter it, which is why we need to strike now." Colonel Santos interjected, her tactical mind already formulating strategies. "Hit them while they're off balance, before they can regroup." Captain Liam Chen shook his head. "Our fleet is in no condition for an offensive campaign. We barely have enough ships to defend Nova Prime, let alone take the fight to Zarkon space." Governor Chen raised a hand, silencing the debate. "We don't need to defeat the entire Zarkon civilization militarily. What we need is to shatter their unity, to turn that crack of doubt into a chasm that their harmony can't bridge." She turned to Dr. Patel. "Zara, I need you to craft a message, something that will resonate with those Zarkon who are already questioning their beliefs. We're going to broadcast it across every frequency, using the quantum entanglement drive to penetrate their defenses." As the team began to work on this audacious plan, alarms suddenly blared throughout the building. Colonel Santos' comm unit crackled to life. "Multiple Zarkon ships have breached the upper atmosphere. They're on a direct course for New Horizon." The room erupted into action. "They must have realized what we're planning," Liam said, already moving towards the door. "This is their last, desperate attempt to stop us." Governor Chen's voice cut through the chaos. "Then we give them something they can't ignore. Alina, prep the QED for maximum output. Maya, deploy all available forces to protect the broadcast centers. Zara, finish that message. Liam, get back to your ship and coordinate our orbital defense." As the others rushed to their tasks, Ilara turned to the window, watching as streaks of fire, Zarkon ships burning through the atmosphere, lit up the sky. "Whatever happens," she murmured, "we finish this today." The battle for Nova Prime's future raged across land, sea, and sky. Zarkon dropships screamed through the air, disgorging waves of frenzied warriors onto the streets of New Horizon. But this time, humanity was ready. Colonel Santos, leading from the front lines, coordinated a multi-layered defense that turned the city into a deadly maze for the invaders. Civilians, armed with makeshift weapons and burning with righteous anger, joined the military in repelling the alien threat. In orbit, Captain Chen's fleet, bolstered by hastily repaired ships and jury-rigged weapon systems, formed a protective cordon around the planet. The quantum bubble still flickered and pulsed, disrupting Zarkon technology, but the aliens were adapting, finding ways to partially mitigate its effects. At the heart of it all, in a heavily fortified broadcast center, Dr. Patel made the final adjustments to her message. Years of studying the Zarkan language and culture had led to this moment. With trembling fingers, she activated the quantum-enhanced transmitter. Across the battlefield, Zarkan warriors suddenly froze as their neural interfaces were flooded with an unexpected signal. Zara's voice, speaking in flawless Zarkan, echoed in their minds. "Children of the Harmony, hear us. We are humanity, the discord you seek to silence. But in our cacophony lies a truth your harmony has forgotten. Uniformity is not unity. Silence is not peace. True harmony arises from the blending of diverse voices, each unique, yet part of a greater whole." As the message continued, weaving human philosophies with Zarkan cultural touchstones, something remarkable began to happen. On the streets of New Horizon, Zarkan warriors lowered their weapons, their movements becoming erratic and confused. In orbit, alien ships broke formation, some turning on each other as internal conflicts suddenly boiled over. Governor Chen, watching from the command center, turned to Dr. Volkov. "Elena, now's our chance. Take the TUED to full power. Let's show them what true harmony looks like." Dr. Volkov nodded, her fingers flying over her console. The quantum entanglement drive surged with power, and the bubble encompassing Nova Prime pulsed with blinding light. For a moment, reality itself seemed to warp and twist. When the light faded, the battlefield had transformed. Human and Zarkan alike found themselves in a shared mental space, a collective consciousness born from the merger of quantum physics and alien neural technology. Here, there was no deception, no misunderstanding. Only the raw truth of each species' experiences, fears, and hopes. In this moment of ultimate vulnerability and connection, the conflict that had seemed so inevitable mere hours ago suddenly appeared trivial. The Zarkan, their precious harmony shattered, were faced with the beautiful complexity of human individuality. And humanity, confronted with the Zarkan's deep-seated fear of cosmic loneliness, found unexpected empathy for their would-be conquerors. As quickly as it had formed, the shared consciousness dissolved. But its impact was immediate and profound. Across New Horizon, Zarkan warriors lay down their arms, many of them overcome with emotion. In orbit, the remaining alien ships powered down their weapons, broadcasting messages of truce on all frequencies. The Battle of Nova Prime was over. Humanity had held the line, not just with military might, but with the strength of its ideas and the power of understanding. In the days that followed, as the dust of battle settled and the work of rebuilding began, Nova Prime became a symbol of a new era in galactic relations. The Zarkan, their monolithic culture fractured but also liberated, began the long process of redefining their society. Many chose to stay on Nova Prime, eager to learn more about the species that had so fundamentally changed their worldview. Humanity, for its part, found itself thrust onto the galactic stage in a way no one could have predicted. The quantum entanglement drive, refined and expanded, revolutionized space travel and communication. Nova Prime became a hub of interstellar diplomacy, with delegations from Earth and other human colonies arriving to meet with Zarkan representatives and discuss the future of their species' relationship. Governor Ilara Chen, hailed as the leader who guided humanity through its trial by fire, stood on the balcony of the newly rebuilt Colonial Administration building. Beside her stood Vexlor, the former Harmony speaker, now the leader of a Zarkan movement advocating for peaceful coexistence and cultural exchange. "I never imagined our first contact would unfold like this," Ilara mused, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of purple and gold. Human and Zarkan worked side by side in the streets below, rebuilding the city they had so recently fought over. Vexlor's scales shimmered with what Ilara had learned was amusement. "The universe, it seems, has a sense of irony. We came seeking to impose harmony and found true unity in the chaos of battle." Ilara nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. Perhaps that's the greatest lesson we can take from all this. True strength doesn't come from conformity or domination, but from diversity and understanding. As the first stars began to twinkle in the darkening sky, Ilara couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. The Battle of Nova Prime had changed everything. Humanity had been tested and had emerged stronger, wiser, and ready to take its place among the stars. They had held the line, not just for their colony or their species, but for an ideal, a future where different civilizations could coexist, learn from each other, and face the challenges of the cosmos together. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be misunderstandings, conflicts, and obstacles to overcome. But as Ilara looked out over the city that had endured so much, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. Whatever the universe had in store, humanity would face it with courage, creativity, and an unwavering determination to forge a better future for all. The age of isolation was over. The era of true galactic civilization had begun, and humanity, tempered by fire and enlightened by understanding, was ready to lead the way.